Hey everybody, this is Doug with Artfully and welcome back. So I'm in the middle of a project, this S-shaped coffee table base, and it kind of dawned on me, hey, this would be a great video project so I could show you how to shape sheet steel around a framework. It's important to mention that I made the framework first. I cut the shape out on my CNC. You don't have to do that. You can actually use a template and cut it out however you want to. These are just some thin, like 20 gauge pieces of sheet steel that I made the curves, and then I put 1-inch supports in between each one of these curves, basically to give myself a skeleton of sorts. Then I took a flexible tape measure and I'm able to figure out how much steel I need by simply following the contour of this all the way around until I get the dimension that I need. Now I'm at the point where I have a piece of flat steel that I have cut to size, and now I'm going to start to shape it. Now this curve is actually pretty big and I could possibly push it into position, but when I did try that the first time, it creased it. So I'm going to go ahead and run it through my roller to kind of help give me a better curve in there. If you don't have a roller, you can use like a big piece of pipe or a big PVC pipe. You just want to kind of help that shape take form. Make your frame, get the sheet metal to start to take form, and then you'll be ready for the next step. So for this particular project, I'm not starting my curve right at the end of the sheet steel. I'm actually going in 11.5 inches. So to make sure that both sides are the same and you don't go crooked, you want to measure from the back of your top roller on each side to make sure that that's going to go in nice and straight. Now I've already set the angle on my roller, so I'm going to be pretty close to the bend that I want. Now it's just a matter of running it through. Now I've marked with my chalk how far I want to go. Basically, I took my flexible tape measure, I measured on the inside of that curve, and that's the distance that I'm going to be going now. So let's go ahead and start the bend. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a nice tight bend. I think that's going to fit within the S-shaped coffee table, so let's take it out and give it a shot. So now here comes the fun part. You want to try to push this into where you need it to go and then get it clamped. And I mean use as many clamps as you can to hold it into position. Now I made mine a little bit wider than I need to. That way I can have a little bit of play. But I'm going to line it up against one edge, and then I'll come back and trim the back side knowing that I've got this dialed in. So this part's crucial. You want to make sure that you're lined up from your starting point, because what you don't want to happen is for it to be slightly off at the top, because by the time you get to the end it could be way off. So take some extra time getting your first part clamped in properly. And don't just work on one side, because as you work on one side, it may start to shift your piece. So go back and forth on each side. Once you have an idea and you feel comfortable with how many clamps that you've got on this thing, and if you are going straight and everything is doing well, then you're going to be ready to start tack welding in place. You don't want to get too crazy in case you have to go back and grind welds off to readjust. As you can tell, I'm putting a lot of clamps on here because I want to make sure that I get this thing dialed in right. So that's going to keep me on track. And then I'll get some bigger clamps. Some areas might have to be persuaded a little bit more. Don't worry about using a little bit of persuasion. All right. Clamp crazy. Now I'm going to go back and start tack welding. I'm going to tack weld the top first, and then I'm going to go down a little bit here, and then a little bit on the other side. And again, go back and forth evenly. Okay, so we got everything clamped. We're ready to start tack welding. But while I tack weld, I'm going to pass the video over to my marketing team, and they can talk to you about Skillshare. Skillshare is actually sponsoring this video. So Skillshare is actually sponsoring this particular video. And if you haven't heard of Skillshare, then you're really kind of missing out. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers thousands of classes. Now, depending on whether you want to just improve a skill that you already have or you want to learn a new skill, Skillshare has a class for it. Now, I do metalwork. I also do some woodwork. But one of the things that I've used Skillshare for so far is marketing, business, how to put myself out there as a company so that I can improve my business. That's how Skillshare has helped me. I'm sure that you're going to be able to find something on Skillshare that can help you. Now, I've also just purchased an annual subscription for my son because he's interested in Adobe Illustrator. So now he can kind of focus on learning Illustrator. Now, outside of work, I'm actually looking at Skillshare to teach me Spanish because at some point, maybe in the next year or two, I'd like to go to Spain and hike the Camino de Santiago. So I'm turning to Skillshare to learn that language. One of the key reasons I really like using Skillshare is because it's ad-free. I can start the class and I can go and watch the entire class without being interrupted by ads. So for me, that is a huge plus. I want to maximize my time when I'm learning. One of the classes I have next on my list is Pricing Your Work and Negotiating with Your Clients by Jess Ledoux. It's one thing to be creative and to make things, but it's a whole nother world to learn how to sell your product, do the business side, and deal with clients. Skillshare offers classes that will help you do that. And get this, the first 1,000 people to click on the link in the description below is going to get a free trial premium membership so you can explore your creativity. So get down there, click the link, and get started in learning some new stuff for yourself. All right, now let's get back to the fabrication department and see what Doug is up to. Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome back. So I hope marketing kind of fills you in on the whole Skillshare thing. That's a really cool website. So let's get back to this project. I just put the finishing touches on all the tack welds that keeps this in place. Now I'm going to go back and take the grinder and I'm going to take off any excess sheet metal that was left over from whenever I tack welded on. Basically, we're going to clean it up. Okay, so basically I've knocked down all the edges of the sheet metal that were not as quite flush with the framework, and now you have a decision to make. Either you go with just the tack welds as kind of an elemental design, or you can come back in and fill in those welds and then go back and grind it all to a nice round corner. But for the most part, that's how you put sheet metal onto a frame or a shape that you want to create. Here are some letters that I did, I think a couple years ago. Same idea that I just did with the S coffee table. Basically, I cut the letters out that you see the ART, and then I went and framed them. As opposed to using my roller, I ended up using my brake, and that's what gives you the 90s for the T and the areas of the A. That you got a nice crease in there. So there you go. That's how you add sheet metal to a shape or a frame or however you want to do that. If you have any questions on about what I just did or just questions in general, Go ahead and add those to the comments down below. And if you haven't subscribed, please go and do that now. If you are subscribed and you want to get notified when I do my videos, hit that bell icon somewhere here in the video. And I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters, Judy Clothier, Barry and Marlene Rush, Funkiss Artistic Creations, and John Luddington. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you guys in the next video.